Hello, I am Nurbek Savitakhunov, and you are watching the news from Kazakhstan. Astana's human rights activists demand a stop to judicial lawlessness in Aktau and to remit cases for further investigation. Several high-profile cases for mass disorders in Zhanaozen are currently underway. Advocates say they witnessed violations of defendants' rights and saw firsthand the biased and prejudiced nature of the trial.
Stop all the trials and reconsider all cases. This is our main demand to the authorities. If they fail to satisfy this, then they are themselves criminals. The fact that trials are held at the regional center and not Zhanaozen, where mass riots took place, is yet another violation of defendants' rights. Their families need to cover long distances on a weekly basis, pay for accommodation, and take leaves at work. Human rights activists believe that the authorities should have provided them with all necessary conditions. The press conference participants also questioned the necessity to split the trials when all of them could be held as one. Musaghali Daumbekov, the chairman of the Public Anti-Corruption Committee, was present at the trial of 5 policemen. The officers said they had to use firearms in self-defense, allegedly after rioters injured them, although it took the judge only one archive video to completely stump the policemen. He asked them at which point in the video they were attacked, and they failed to reply. This episode, in my opinion, is the answer to the entire Zhanaozen process, when a judge asks the policeman a direct question and they can't say anything.
Russia's activists that paid a visit to Kazakhstan held a press conference in Moscow, claiming that people are being shot for holding rallies, while union and party leaders are jailed there. The activists were shocked by what they witnessed and once again called on mass media and the public not to ignore the events in Zhanaozen, as well as in the country as a whole. Here's what they had to say. The shootings in December were among the few rare cases in the history of former Soviet Union states when workers were killed and dissenters oppressed as a result. The ensuing trials and the actual number of casualties during riots raised a lot of questions from Russian and international human rights activists, on top of the repeated defendants' complaints regarding tortures during interrogation, which are being entirely ignored by authorities. The visit of Russian activists resulted in the creation of an international committee for defending political prisoners in Kazakhstan. Lev Ponomarev, the leader of the Russian human rights advocacy movement, voiced the first initiatives. We have already appealed to the European Parliament, and they adopted a strict resolution, although we are yet to see any changes. This means we need to make a new appeal, especially in the light of forthcoming trials of Kozlov and his associates. We need to make sure that the trial will be open to the public. We are going to appeal to Amnesty International, asking to recognize them as prisoners of conscience. After 5 months of detention, prisoners from the kplustv station, suspected of organizing mass disturbances, as well as arson and resisting the authorities, came back home. The next report features the stories of these illegally detained town residents.
Several residents of kplustv station arrested after the December events for organization and participation in mass unrests have returned home after 5 months in a detention center. 3 days ago, the court gave a guilty verdict to 6 young people, but immediately pardoned some of them to commemorate the 20th anniversary of independence, celebrated on the day when 17 people in Zhanaozen died. Yermukhanuli Kasim is pronounced guilty and sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment under Part 1, Article 299, and to 3 years under Part 2, Article 241. Under Part 3, Article 51, Yermukhanuli Kasim is given the punishment of 3 years of imprisonment. The detention centers where Kasim had to spend several months for the alleged instigation of mass unrests near the railway station cannot be simply forgotten. They will affect his health for a long time. Kasim says and admits that he had expected the worst from the trial, as he thought everyone would be imprisoned. Fortunately, Kasim avoided the term, receiving a suspended sentence. The trial is over, but the 35-year-old still has a question of what was his crime exactly. I was not even there and don't have anything to do with this. I was arrested 70 days later right in my store. Apparently there were some people who said I was among the organizers, but I'm sure that had they not found any fake witnesses, they would have made them up. I was implicated in something I had not done. Supposedly some anonymous witnesses sent my photo to the police. However, neither during the investigation nor during the trial anyone could identify me. And then it became clear that these anonymous people were all made up. I will not be surprised if tomorrow it turns out all of this was someone's order. Order or not, now it is top secret information and regular citizens like Kasim can only guess. In his opinion, after the authorities realized that their case was falling apart, they decided to find a scapegoat to blame for the unrest that followed the protest against shooting of people in Zhanaozen. Among others, the blame was placed on Yermukhanli and Avezov, later sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. Kasim believes this is because both of them had prior convictions which served the foundation for the accusation. Adiyev Hasan is to be acquitted due to the lack of evidence under Part 3, Article 241. Adiyev Hasan is pronounced guilty under the Part 1, Article 299 and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. Adiyev is to be pardoned in honor of the 20th anniversary of Kazakhstan's independence. The pardoned Hasan Adiyev has also returned home. The 20-year-old was arrested early in the morning near his house on his way to work. Hasan says he's still in shock after what he went through, as if he had been to hell and back. Yes, I was arrested, but I don't know what for. Now I have been acquitted. I'm not going to complain anyway. I have nothing more to say. I used to be employed. Now I'm not, as I was fired while I had been detained for 5 months. Now I am unemployed. No, I was not even arrested at the square. It happened here near home at 6:30 a.m. I was going to work, but I was taken away by the police. An old little house, disabled parents and a little sister is all this young man has. No modern utilities, only gas access at home. Everything else is right here. The humble young man says modestly that he used to be a promising athlete. He even has award certificates and medals earned in various competitions, but they have been taken away by the investigators who said they'd help to mitigate the sentence. Now he's worried if he will ever get them back. We went through a real nightmare. They beat us with batons. Once I lost consciousness, couldn't eat for about 10 days after that. And I was constantly asking myself, what's going on? Why am I arrested? Yes, we were at the square, went to support Ozen residents, demanded to stop bloodshedding. We'd been tortured for 2 months and stayed alive. Praise to Allah. However, I'm concerned about other young men. They've been arrested illegally. If we had been arrested only because our faces were on TV, then there were hundreds of us. Why have we been let out then? Upon his return home, Yesen, together with his former cellmate Nurlubek Uljabayev, who was released earlier, visited the father of Gabidin Bakhidjanov, sentenced by the Aktau court to 5 years for instigation of the unrests. The young man came to share the family's pain and told Bakhidjanov Sr. that his son is absolutely innocent. The investigators had no facts. The proceedings failed to convince what illegal activity Gabidin was involved in, as the young man's state, and the sentence, in their opinion, is unfair. Now the fate of Gabidin, who by both training and calling as a virtuoso Dombra performer, is hanging in the air. Not a single video shows my son. Nowhere in the video he is seen calling for action, telling anyone to bring bottles, mixtures or posters. He doesn't organize meetings. He never gives anyone any orders. No words like bring the gas or bring the guns. I asked the investigators, show me at least one video like that. If you manage to convince me through such evidence, I will then say, yes, my son was brought up right. He deserves to be in jail. However, they have nothing like that. In any case, the sentence on mass unrests in Chetpe left more questions than answers. The pardoned convicts and families of those sentenced have yet to understand what the punishment is for. This is why there is some tension with people arrested at the beginning of the trial but later released. These people are outraged by the fact that I allegedly provided false testimony. And I'm saying they should get their facts straight. I was working at the day and I never gave such testimonies. Nurlubek Uljabayev, who visited Gabidin's father, believes that Bakhidjanov Sr. has brought up a worthy son of his motherland. He admires Gabidin's bravery and assures that giving false testimony in order for someone else to be arrested in an attempt to save his own life is not in the blood of Mangistau residents.
The verdict in the case of Chetpe Station riots left the residents of this small village with mixed feelings. They remain convinced that their fellow villagers who were convicted of organizing and taking part in these riots are innocent. Moreover, they claim that on December 17th, no one burned anything and none of the shops were looted. Our heroes should be released. They did not do anything wrong. They were accused of stopping the train, but at that time, no one thought the punishment would be that harsh. There were no unlawful actions against anyone. They did not even hurt anyone with their words. They accused Aynash of saying something, but this is not enough. She was speaking about people's grief. I don't think these actions will lead to any good.
Халық бұл әуелден бұл соттың алдында сөйлесіп әңгіме қылып қойдық.
Many say that Nazarbayev will leave because he is old now, but even if he leaves, nothing will change unless the system changes. This is my point. Political parties are fighting for power, although there is no unity among them. There is also another thing. The prosecutor general commented on the situation a day after the events, but he was not present there, so he did not have the right information. This is all against the law. The trial wasn't supposed to take place. An investigation has to be carried out again to find out who opened fire at people. Those who did escape the trial, the only person charged is the head of the temporary detention facility. He was sentenced to 5 years, although 5 years is too little for a person who shot people.
The famous film director Bolat Atabayev and head of the Ruh Bentil youth club Jean-Bolat Mamai are called for questioning in Zhanaozen on May 30th. Both activists are tried on the grounds of inciting social discord, but Atabayev, for instance, cannot afford to visit Mangistau region. Here's why.
First, I cannot afford to travel there. Second, I will not go there unless attorney Gulnara Janajosova will be there, and she's currently in Petropavlovsk due to family circumstances. I'm not going to go through the criminal case. I have no business in doing so. Public activists' house arrest will be replaced with actual arrest once they arrived in Zhanaozen, believes Jean-Bolat Mamai. According to some sources, politician Vladimir Kozlov and public activist Serik Saparkali have already been transferred to the west of the country. They are among 18 other people charged with inciting social discord. Social activists believe their trial will be based on the indictments against 37 accused oil workers in Aktau. We are confident that they have no evidence against us in the upcoming trial. In fact, their entire case is fairly weak. Most likely, their only stronghold and a platform for imprisonment on political motives such as inciting social discord will be the conviction of 37 oil workers.
President Nursultan Nazarbayev made serious proposals on Wednesday, May 23rd in Astana, including uniting the world and abandoning revolutions. Speaking at the Economic Forum, the national leader once again made unflattering remarks about the dollar, voiced his views on the global economy, and even acted as the world's legislator, putting forward 5 basic rules on how states should behave in relation to one another.
Participants of the 5th Economic Forum started to fill the main hall 1.5 hours before the opening ceremony. Politicians and businessmen, all in all about 5,000 people from 90 countries worldwide. While some were looking for their designated seats, others were studying the event schedule. The security at the side door became more focused as Nursultan Nazarbayev and his special guests walked into the hall. The president of Kazakhstan seemed a little concerned with something, seemingly wanting for everything to go perfectly. As he reached the platform, the guests were seated and the host delivered a welcome speech, long and thorough. A complex question by the moderator Stephen Dunbar Johnson, asked in English, only emphasized the excellent preparation of the speaker for the event. While everyone is attentively listening to the simultaneous translation through their headphones, the president fires away a response on the spot. Lessons learned by the country after the crisis of 2009 are clear and concise. The second wave of the crisis, which experts have been predicting for 5 years, is not going to happen in Kazakhstan, says Nazarbayev. All these years, the revenues from oil and gas resources have been deposited to the National Welfare Fund, which accumulates $86 billion, which is enough insurance for rainy days. There's simply no need to borrow money externally, and even now the country's debts are at absolutely low levels, says the president. It's not right to indefinitely live on credit. One must be able to allocate funds in accordance with income received. We need to learn this. In the meantime, having finished with the analysis of the domestic economy, Nazarbayev moved on to the global one, followed by geopolitics. According to the president, the world is experiencing one of the most difficult stages, and to use US dollars as means to rescue the financial system is akin to putting out fires with gasoline. It is time to unite, repeatedly said Nazarbayev, and not into G8s or G20s, but into something bigger like G Global. I believe that mankind has already used up the limits on revolutions and world wars in the last century. Today, the sole wisdom and humanity is to save our world as opposed to the self-destruction. Revolutions in the 21st century are possible and acceptable only in the field of science and technology, but they are disastrous in political terms and social life. All countries should trust each other and be transparent. Yet it is not clear how transparency can be expected from others if there is none even at the forum itself. For instance, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Finance Uras Jandosov has difficulty calculating the end cost of the event to the state budget. I say all expenses should be categorized into specific amounts for rent, transportation costs, accommodation, etc. Because these are taxpayers' money. That's unfortunately not in place. And I think this issue should be directly addressed to those who organize the event. The forum will be over on Thursday, May 24th. It will culminate with an hour-and-a-half dialogue of Kazakhstan government representatives and international financiers and technologists. The tone of the final debates seemed to be already set on Wednesday.
Ust-Kamenogorsk businessmen intend to defend their rights to former municipal property. Entrepreneurs made these purchases while Viktor Khrapunov was at the helm in the region. Now these transactions were nullified. Several administrative buildings downtown, large plots of land, the military registration and enlistment office, and a business incubator were passed into private management. 7 years later, the prosecutor's office decided to restore state ownership of this property. Dauren Malghazdarov acquired a former enlistment office building for $200,000 last year, taking out a 7-year bank loan. And now to address the 3 courts, he will have to issue payments for this loan.
There were 3 owners selling it to each other, and I'm the 4th one. Every month I cover the credit of nearly $3,300. If it will be taken away, I still would have to pay the bank because I have additional collateral. There are actual grounds to take it back as the limitation terms have expired. We're about to receive a cassational decree and then we will take it to the Supreme Court. We're hopeful because we believe that the prosecution is late, having grounds since 2007 and missing 3 years they had. Neither lawyers nor entrepreneurs could tell why the prosecutors resurrected Khrapunov's business transactions after 7 years. In January 2011, Ust-Kamenogorsk court ruled to return to the state all property embezzled by the ex-governor, effectively rendering all deals with the current owners illegal. In this case, the state is not going to indemnify businessmen because Khrapunov, who is mentioned in transactions, is no longer considered a government official, but a leader of an organized criminal group. Hence, the claim should be addressed to him and Ilyasov, another member of the same alleged group. However, Khrapunov's business came into spotlight only recently when Almaty and Astana Financial Police decided to inspect all real estate transactions of the former governor and former minister for emergencies. In the meantime, Khrapunov believes that the eldest daughter of the president, Dariga Nazarbayeva, is involved in the developments as she herself used a pointee to seize land plots in East Kazakhstan.
For the first time, head of the national company Kazatomprom, Vladimir Shkolnik, made comments about the scandal surrounding the luxury yacht Bayterek. Several media outlets actively speculated that he was building the 50-meter four-deck vessel for himself at the expense of the company.
My dearest, do you really believe that having worked for 40 years in the nuclear industry and 20 years as a minister, I decide to get a yacht in our country? Can anyone really believe that? Dr. Goebbels once said, the bigger the lie, the easier it is to believe it. Someone needs this lie, and you might wonder why they're doing this. According to Shkolnik Sr., the yacht was commissioned by Kazatomprom in 2006 to be used for administrative purposes. The official assures that virtually anyone may take trips on the boat, which will set sail to Bukhtarma River in July-August this year. According to unconfirmed sources, the yacht cost Kazatomprom $55 million, although Shkolnik believes the amount is exaggerated. In the meantime, Bayterek went through a real odyssey in the last 6 years. The Russian factory in charge of the project went bankrupt, and later faulty work and defects were found on board, stranding the boat in Pavlodar for a long time. In the end, the management at Kazatomprom decided to complete the project, after all using their own resources. An entire plant was built for this purpose, costing additional finances to the company. Shkolnik does not believe any of these actions are questionable, claiming all Bayterek cost sheets are transparent.
An 84-year-old woman in Pavlodar filed a lawsuit against an employee of one of the city's fleets. The senior citizen demands a $7,000 compensation from the driver for running over her 9 months ago. It is this accident that deprived her from the ability to move freely. This is what she had to say. I can't do anything, and sometimes my daughter visits me. A month ago, I started to walk again, a little around the house. Otherwise, I had to use a chair to move. Then I found a walking stick, left from my husband who died 3 years ago. The senior says that last August, she boarded the bus that started moving without closing its doors. She fell off the moving bus, and the bus ran over her leg. The senior citizen was not able to attend the trial and is represented by a lawyer. The driver, who received a complaint from Yanina Sachkova, admitted his fault, although he said he could not pay the moral damage compensation, saying that costs needed to be covered by insurance. As for the management of Pavlodar Motor Pool, which also received a complaint, the company denied even owning the bus in question. Here's the vehicle registration certificate. The bus in question is owned by the joint stock company Public Transport Enterprise in Aksu region. I request to attach the document to the case. On Wednesday, a protest action was held outside an Almaty clinic. More than 10 members of the union titled "Leave People's Housing Alone" gathered with placards in defense of a local entrepreneur. The area that the woman rented for a cafeteria is being taken away. New management refuses to cooperate with her and declines to respond to protesters' claims on camera.
Can you comment on the situation? Are you really taking away the premises? I didn't take anything. All the documents are there. Gulzhan Yeliulova has been renting the basement for 5 years, using it as a canteen, with an appropriate agreement signed by the city financial department. However, the newly appointed chief physician lodged a number of complaints against the woman. Yeliulova tried to eliminate all reported violations, but it appears this wasn't enough. The woman asked for support from Leave People's Housing Alone Association, but did not succeed initially. Also of note, the TV reporter was not allowed inside the office where the head of the hospital held talks with the visitors. It was later in the office when Gulzhan Tolebayeva explained the reasons for closing the canteen. Meanwhile, the authorities only recently informed Gulzhan of their intention to break the contract. As of March 1st, the canteen didn't have the permission to operate from the sanitary authorities. Second, there is a gas tank in the canteen, and this is a serious violation, as gas tanks cannot be used in public institutions because it is dangerous. Third, the canteen is very dirty, and tablecloths are all greasy. I'm earning my bread here. I can't even pay my mortgage. I'm just earning my living, that is all. It is hardly enough to make both ends meet. The chief physician in the hospital is trying to keep me from doing my work. I don't have any other source of income. I have a big family of 4 children to feed.
And finally, a charity event called Your Donor opened in Almaty. Several public figures, including Miss Kazakhstan 2011, local celebrities and football players, took part in a blood donation campaign. All those wishing to donate 100 grams of blood are guaranteed tickets to the gala.
A kiss from the first beauty of the country for just 100 grams of blood. The campaign Your Donor is currently underway in Almaty. Miss Kazakhstan 2011 Aynur Toleulova is helping organizers to promote the event. She herself would gladly donate her blood, but unfortunately doesn't fit the criteria, being both underage and underweight. I will spend the entire day here, and I will pose for a picture with every generous donor. But this is not the only ace up the sleeves of the organizers, who also got several local pop stars on board, while soccer players are expected to join in no time. 1,000 liters of blood is expected to be collected after a month of the campaign. But to achieve this, 10,000 people have to become donors. Although realistically this number should be higher, there should be 50 donors per 1,000 patients to have enough of vital reserves. The population is a little afraid to come to us. It is important to show them that the blood donation is a safe process and it is good for their health. But most importantly, those who donate blood might actually save someone's life. Marina Gurina agrees that donating blood is important and safe, but not for patients. According to the activist, the blood center has no means of detecting hepatitis C at early stages, and it could take anywhere from 3 months and up to 2 years for the disease to manifest itself. Therefore, the doctors and donors may not know about the bad blood. That's the problem the fund Ulagaty Januya tries to bring to the attention of the state bodies for already 2.5 years. A tragic incident became the reason when over 100 children were infected with hepatitis C. If this diagnostics equipment cannot detect hepatitis C at initial stages, then what are we talking about? When children receive a certain volume of blood, they get infected. And this is the answer for the question on how the mass infection of children occurred. 5 liters of blood was donated to the National Center on Wednesday. This is a double of what was expected, say the campaign organizers, adding the involvement of Kazakhstan's first beauty actually worked. 397 liters of blood was collected in total in a similar campaign last year.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.